Happy Sunday, y'all. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending upon where you are, where you may be, and where you may be headed to. Hope everybody's had a good weekend. It's almost over, but we can still squeeze a little bit more value out of it if we try. Oh man, it's been crazy around here. We got typical Oregon spring or getting into summertime. um, it's just kind of rainy, miserable. Yesterday it was 79 degrees. Today they're saying it's going to get up to 64. Yeah, who can figure? I went to all the trouble of getting the air conditioning all set up yesterday, and now I don't need it. So that's fine. I'm set. I'm ready. First world problems. Just saying hello to everybody out there. I see we got a pretty full house, and the questions are already coming in, and I'm real happy to see that. Let's go ahead and get started with a few, and ignore the mess behind me. I'm kind of in a transitional stage right now. Let's get over here and just go ahead and get started, I guess. Alan Heffernan, thank you for being here, Alan. I have two computers with vCarve Pro on them. How do I keep my tool database the same for both? Vectric has made that real easy to do. Man, I need to raise this up so that I'm not hiding behind the question. Oh, well, we'll get it figured. Let me bump up my chair slightly. There we go. Um, Vectric has made this real easy to do. If you are online and you have registered your software through your portal on your V and Company account, it's real easy to do. Let's go ahead and go over to Aspire, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You do have to have a project open in order to get up here into the toolpaths menu. Then we'll come down here to the tool database. Now, what you'll need to do is get on the computer that has the most complete and the most up-to-date database on it. And then you'll go up here where if it says online, that means you are online and connected with your portal. If it just shows a little icon, kind of like this one here, up in this corner, but that's all it shows, and up here it says sign in or something like to that effect, you'll need to go ahead and click this link up here where it says sign in and sync up your portal with the software. Then you'll go in and you'll click on this icon right here, upload your current tool database to the portal. You'll click on that icon and it'll ask you, are you sure you want to upload and overwrite whatever database is there already? You'll click yes, and it'll upload your tool database onto your portal through the website, through the Vectric website. Then you'll come to the other computer that has the less up-to-date or less complete tool database on it. And you'll click this icon right here, download your latest tool database from the portal. And it'll ask you, it'll prompt you, do you want to overwrite this database in this version? And you say yes. And it will download that database and install it here, and you'll have the same database on however many computers. Vectric allows 3 at any one time. And it's real easy to change if you get a new computer or what have you. But that's a great way of keeping your database up to date. When you get a new tool, add it to one database, then upload that database to the portal. Then when you get on the other computer, you can go in and download that database and keep it up to date and keep it synced. So it's real easy to do. And it's one of those things that I didn't think that I would use, but I use it quite a bit. And it really comes in handy. So I hope that helps with that one. So let me jump back over here to live questions and see if that has worked out for you. Okay, don't see any reply. So I use that a lot more often than I ever thought I would. And it was kind of funny. I didn't really, I don't know. There's a lot of things that improvements that they have made like that I didn't think I would use. And it just, once I got it and once I started using it, it was like, wow, this really is cool. Because before, what I would have to do is and if you're using an older version, I don't remember when they did this, when they added this. I want to say it was on either version 10 or 10.5, one of those two. If you have an older version, let me go back over to Aspire and show this. If you have an older version, what you'll have to do is go up here to the File menu and open the application data folder. And that'll bring up, let me drag it over here so we can see it. There we go. That'll bring up the program data for the version that you're using right now. Then you come down here to Tool Database and then look for the most recent file, and it will be right there. The tool VTDB. Copy that to a flash drive, go on to the other computer, put that flash drive in, open up the tool-based data folder, and then manually swap it over. You'll have to either rename or get rid of that one because you'll be importing the other. And it's just a major pain. But yeah, hey, it works. That storing it online makes things so much easier. Okay, let's see. Larry Stas says, is there an advantage to zeroing Z off the spoil board? And I'm going to use the words that folks don't like to hear. And that is, it depends. If you are, let me try to think of a good example. Well, just in general use, if you are zeroing off of the material surface and you're going to V-carve, that means that all the V-carving is going to be done from zero, from the surface of your material, down into the material. You'll want to set your Z0 at the surface. If you are cutting a pocket and the depth of the pocket from the surface of the material is the critical measurement, like if that pocket needs to be 1/4 of an inch deep, let's say, if that's the case, surfacing off of this, setting your Z0 off of the surface of the material is the important thing, because it'll go a known distance from that surface. It'll go that 1/4 inch down. If, on the other hand, you need that pocket to be however deep it has to go, you need 1/4 of an inch of material remaining from the bottom of the surface of the material, the bottom surface, up to the bottom of that pocket. Then setting your Z0 to your spoil board is the critical factor. That way, it doesn't matter how thick your material actually is, it will go down to it will machine that pocket down to 1/4 of an inch above the spoil board, leaving that 1/4 inch remaining. So if that makes any sense, if the critical measurement is depth from the surface, then setting Z0 from the material surface is the way to go. If the critical measurement is the amount of material remaining, setting the Z0 to the spoil board is the way to go. It you just have to be careful because you can't combine them in the same tool paths. But if you have like a pocket that needs to leave 1/4 of an inch of material behind and you set your Z0 to that spoil board, but then you're going to come back and V-carve inside that pocket, then that should be on a separate file and use separate G-code, and you'll reset your Z0, if that makes any sense. So you got to be careful. You can't really combine the two because the software will only allow you to set your Z0 either from the surface or from the spoil board. You can't do both. So you got to be careful there. Other people like to set their Z0 off of the spoil board when they're doing a profile cutout, because that way it saves their spoil board from getting carved into when you're cutting all the way through the material. It'll carve down to that 0 point, and that's it. Now, personally, I don't baby my spoil board. I figure that's its job. That's why it's named spoil board. It's there to get ruined and resurface. It's there to protect the CNC table. So I don't baby my spoil board. I cut it up and screw holes and, dowel holes and the whole shebang. So I'm not concerned with that. But I hope that helps. So let me jump back over here to live questions. Let's see if that makes any sense there, Larry. Okay, he says thanks. Okay, all right, perfect. Oh boy, let's see if we have anything else going on here down in the live questions. Okay, got a few more questions coming in. Let's see. Jim Brown says, how do you organize your small pieces of wood you can use for inlays and such? You are asking the wrong person. I think as hard as I try to get organized, I find it to be an uphill battle all the time, in that no matter how hard I try, the less successful I become at it. Basically, I'm pretty good at separating by species. So if I've got chunks of walnut, I have like a box that has a bunch of little walnut drops in it. And I have another box that has a bunch of maple, and then, whatever, wenge over here and cherry over there. The problem is I forget that I have that. And it's remembering to go back and revisit those little pieces to be used for inlays and what have you. And so my issue is now I have all these boxes full of the wrong material, or material I've forgotten that I have. So, and sometimes the hard part of this is knowing when to throw it away, in that it's kind of a waste of time to try to save it. And that doesn't mean, if it's less than a certain size, pitch it, because obviously if I've got a piece of material that's about that big, I can use that for several different projects. But when you get way down to little, 10 millimeter or 1/2 inch chunks, it's time to throw that. Yes, you might be able to use that down the road for an inlay. But the question you have to ask yourself is, will you? Probably not. Because then you also get into how do you mount it to the machine. So I'm the wrong guy to ask about anything to do with organization. I'm trying, but it's getting harder and harder the more stuff I accumulate. Just basically, I segregate it into boxes and go from there. And then I've got a bunch of boxes in a closet in my quote unquote office, and it's just remembering what species I have and then go rummage through that. So sorry I can't be of more assistance, but as I say, Martha Stewart would have an absolute cow if she saw my organization. So let's see. Russell Faraday says, I zero mostly from the spoil board plus 2 layers of painter's tape because most projects are on tape CA glue. My spoil board is close to pristine. Yeah, I know a lot of people do. Peter Pasuelo over on his channel, CNC Nuts, that's his go-to. He mainly sets his Z0 and references off of the spoil board. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It just depends on what you're doing. Because as I said, I would say about 90% of the projects that I do, I'm carving down in from the surface. So that's the critical measurement. I want it to reference off of the surface of the material. So it works. So it's 100% up to you. There are advantages and disadvantages to both. Let's see. Michael Hall says, any advice on tramming a spindle that doesn't have adjustments built into the machine? Yes, and that would be figure out an acceptable amount of error, because you can drive yourself crazy chasing numbers. There's a caveat there, though. If you are doing woodwork, you do not generally need 3-digit accuracy. And the reason I say that is because wood moves. It's always going to move. And there's nothing anyone, you or I or anyone else on the planet, can do short of encasing that wood in plastic that's going to change that. Wood is going to move. So if you are 0.02 of an inch out of 0, you're fine. Number one, you can't see 0.02 of an inch. Number two, any moisture changes, to include the moisture that's in the glue when you're gluing 2 pieces together, are going to make that wood swell more than that 0.02 of an inch anyway. So if you are making a mortise and tenon, for example, and you're going to have to machine some tolerance either into the mortise or into the tenon to allow it to fit together. If you don't, even dry, you're going to have a serious problem trying to get those pieces together. And then now you got to add glue. How much is that glue going to make the wood swell? Well, again, it depends. So if you're personally, when I trammed my router, I figured if I got within 5,000ths, I was good. That's good enough. Well, I did get within 5,000ths. In fact, I got about 1,000ths out, 1,000ths out in tilt, and dead on in nod, dead on 0. And that's more than fine, especially for what I do. Now, if you are machining metal and you need 3, 4, and possibly 5-digit resolution, then you're going to have to, you might have to invent or create a mount that would allow you easier adjustment, especially in tilt. Nod is going to be difficult. Generally speaking, you're dealing with shims, and that's about it. But I think we tie ourselves up in knots trying to chase numbers that are just not necessary for woodworking. If you are creating V-carve signs and that's all you're doing, you probably don't even need to worry about tramming. If it's close enough, it's close enough. If you are trying to surface materials, then you do need to be more concerned with tramming. Just don't drive yourself crazy chasing zeros, because it'll get you into that metal squirrel cage and just lead to nothing but frustration. Believe me, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and it's so old. It's just that discussion is so old, and that t-shirt is so old, I'm using it for a wax rag. So let's see here. Mike Tadlock wants to know, for new people, have you thought about providing a link to the files you use so we can work along with you? I think that makes learning and retention better. I do offer most of the files for free, most of the files for the beginner series. And there's only a few. They're on my website. There's a link in the description to my website in every video I have on YouTube. And you're looking at a couple of different DXF files so you can import. But I do get asked about files quite a bit. And this may sound, I don't know, kind of harsh, but I don't mean it to sound this way. But in 99% of my videos, I'm literally showing you how to create the file. So the purpose of the video is to show you how to create the file. So if I give you the file, there's no point in showing you how to create it. So if it is something like, if I'm doing something in a 3D model and that model is a part of the clip art, you have the file. It's right there within your clip art. If I'm doing something where I'm drawing some vectors or what have you, draw along with me. That's the purpose of the video, is to get you into the software, get you used to using it, and get you to the point to where you don't need me anymore. Basically. So that's why I don't offer files, and I do get asked about them. And you know, it may sound selfish to say it, but it's like, dude, I just showed you how to make the file. That's the whole point. So let's see. Let me get over here. Alan says, in reference to tramming, I recently bought a piece of 1/4-inch plate glass for a surface board. Had been using a granite surface block. The glass is much easier. Yeah, I will agree with that. I have used both. The first tramming video I did on my channel, I made the mistake of using 1/8-inch thick glass. And what I didn't realize was it was just big enough to where the center sagged a little bit. And that was just enough to throw me off slightly. And again, I got into that squirrel cage where I was chasing zeros. So that really messed me up. I've got a thicker piece of glass, and I've used that versus using the granite surface plate. And as far as weight is concerned, because yeah, you got to lift up the surface plate to kind of shim and what have you. But I also got much closer numbers with the surface plate. Now, using 1/4-inch plate glass, you probably shouldn't get any sag. I mean, unless you're using a humongous piece of glass. So, but again, there is no perfect. I mean, there is no best. This is one of those cases. Whatever works for you, that's the way you should go. And I'm that way when anybody asks me about the best anything, is if it works for you and it's within your budget, that's the best way for you, and go for it. See, Peter Van Vliet says, I use the glass from Rockler as well for tramming. Seems to work well. Again, if it works for you, that's the right one. That's the best to go. And Peter also adds, I use Mark's great tramming video to tram mine Onefinity, and it's within the Mark tolerance level for sanity. Yeah, you can drive yourself nuts. And I get this question a lot from retired machinists where they're used to working in 4-digit resolutions because they have to have that. And it is hard to convince somebody who's been working in 4-digit resolution all their life that you just don't need that. You just don't need it. So it's okay. It's going to work out. So let's see, let me get back over here. Jeff Gigan says, I have some inside pocket corners that needed to be sharp and fuzzy free. They are 0.6 deep, so sanding wasn't going to work. I decided to use a 10-degree Amana engraving bit with an offset of 0.01. Okay. And did that work for you? I find that for working with when you're trying to stay fuzzy free, if it's at all possible, I do the V bit or the profile cut first. That way, everything is supported by the surrounding material. So if I'm just cutting, like in your case, a 0.6-inch pocket, I will have it do the profile pass first, then come back and do the clearance. Because that way, and I also use a downcut spiral bit. That's also important. That way I get the bit will shear that material downwards and run that, and I run all my V-bit passes first as well. I get a lot less chip out because the material's supported. And I'm not bringing a V-bit back to something thin and freestanding and trying to carve like this. It carves that pattern in the supported material all the way around, then go back and clear out the middle. So, okay, let's see. Let's get down here. Is that okay? Yeah, that one's taken care of. Dwayne Ruthig says, in your text clipping video, Michelle with horses, if you wanted to add another text line like the last name, how do you get that clip to the same level? Well, okay, let's go over to, and yeah, let's go over here to Aspire to Mark. Kind of brain cramp there. And I'm going to do in the text here, in the case of that, where you have the text in the text box, what I will do, if you want to add a second line, go back into your text window, select that text, go back into your text window here, and let's just go. Got my first line of text there, hit enter, and then just add it right along like that. Okay. Now, if you need, and we'll go ahead and close that. And I'll just go ahead and tap F9 to get it centered in the material. Now, if you need that to be 2 lines of text suddenly, select it, right click, break text block into lines. And what that does is, instead of now having 1 line of text, I have 2. Now, then I can go back and edit 1 line or the other. Now I'm going to click off Control Z to undo that, so I have that 1 block. But basically all I'm saying is to just select it, go back up into the text block here, and then from there I can come down here and let's say, what is today? 6/112/22, and that just adds another line of text. Close. Then with it selected, right click, break text block into lines, and now they're each one individual lines of text. Now, if you've already done this, then you open up your the file, and I need to add another line of text after this one. Select it, go into the text block, and just enter to start a new line. And add that line, close, And again, you can come up here, select, break text block into lines, and now I have 4 separate lines of text to work with. So adding text is always fairly simple. And then you can just move around and space it. Now, again, I got all 4 of these. F9, just center it up again, and I'm all set. So I hope that helps with that. And I'll leave that text up there just in case. Hope that answers that question. So let's see. Mario Montoya says, found a 1/2-inch 6x6 tramming glass at a local window glass business that was leftover waste for $10. Worked great. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the sources are basically endless. I mean, you know, my whole reason for using that granite surface plate is because I do use it on other things. I need a good flat reference surface. And I had it and it was like, hey, why not? Oh, okay, Dwayne, I see what you're talking about. In the video, you're clipping to a dish. Well, okay, what you'll have to do is you'll have to undo the clipping, take the clipping off of that layer, do all your text modifications, then apply clipping again. Okay. So that's after you've changed your text. And I also have to say it's been a while since I made that video, so I'll need to get back into it and kind of refresh my brain on it. But if you're going to make any modifications to something that's already clipped, you need to turn off level clipping, make your modifications, then reapply the level clipping. I apologize for that. I didn't think about that. So, okay, let's see. We have some other more questions here. Let's see. Sargon Tavor, friend to the channel, longtime friend, and my first channel member. Thank you very much. Channel member number 1. I know you've not worked with aluminum, but do you think blue tape and CA glue is strong enough to hold 3mm dibond for a profile cut? John over at NYCCNC has used the blue tape and CA glue to hold aluminum to his fixtures and his tables. The only caveats are if you're doing a lot of long operations and that aluminum heats up, that adhesive on the tape will fail. Now, if you're just doing a profile or a pocket, drilling a couple holes, something like that, he uses it. Now, as far as 3mm dibond, it should be strong enough for a profile cut. If you have any doubts, I would look into something else. Also, if you're using any kind of a lubricant, if you have a mister or wet lube system, I would not use it because the liquid will cause the adhesive to fail on that tape. I would say experiment with a piece of scrap if you have it. And I know dibond, there's no such thing really as scrap aluminum, but I would use it personally. Now, it also depends on what you're doing, but yeah, I would try it. And that's just me. It's easy for me to say because I'm not the one that bought the dibond, but I have enough confidence in it that I would use it. So, okay, let's see here. Norm Peterson says, was given a large amount of basswood, 1/2 to 3 inch. Is this too soft to carve? Absolutely not. The only thing I would suggest is, again, practice on scrap. And if you've got a large amount, I would take some and just play with it. And that is mainly for feeds and speeds. But I've heard from a lot of people that basswood is really good to carve, especially if you're getting into like V-carving portraits, the photo V-carve toolpath. There's a lot of people that love basswood for that. And also for halftones and things like that. And the reason for that is because basswood is notoriously plain when it comes to grain. Not a lot of figure, not a lot of excitement going on in the grain of basswood. And that's perfect for portraits where you don't want it to look like somebody's got acne all over them or something, because, you know, a bunch of bird's eyes from the wood grain or what have you. So yes, you can definitely carve basswood, and a lot of folks, that's their go-to when they're photo V carving. So now, but you will have to experiment with feeds and speeds because it is such a soft wood. So let's see. Lewis Denton says, I'm trying to reduce cycle times in a project where the longest toolpath is texturing. Are there any tips for reducing a texturing toolpath cycles? Yes. And I've mentioned this before. Let me jump over here again into Aspire. And we'll jump over to the texturing toolpath right here. When you select your bit, select your bit, and in this case, I'm using a 1/4 inch ball nose. Get in here and edit, and right here, your plunge rate, that is your culprit. Now, it depends on how deep your toolpath is going to be. If it's just going to be one pass, then I would set that to the same as the feed rate. Okay. But in the same way, and this is the same for 3D carving, okay? The machine is going to move at the speed of the slowest axis. So it doesn't matter what you have your feed rate set at. You could have that set at 1,000 inches per minute. But if you have your plunge rate set at 15 inches per minute, that's how fast the machine is going to go. And when you're 3D carving, when you're using the texture toolpath, when you're using the, molding toolpath, anytime that Z is going to be in motion, the machine is going to slow down and run at this plunge rate. So if in cases like that, set the plunge rate to be the same as the feed rate. And that will help reduce the machine time. Now, if you're doing a 3D carve, let's close this and go into 3D. If you're using a 3D roughing toolpath, here's where your machining allowance comes in. You're roughing away most of the material, this machining allowance, and in this case, it's 0.04, so 40 thousandths of an inch. That roughing toolpath is going to cut and remove material, leaving that skin of 40 thousandths of an inch that is not going to be cut. That's there for your finishing toolpath to clean up. So when you come in and do your finishing toolpath, and like I'm using a 1/8 inch ball nose here, edit that, I will bump the plunge rate up to the same rate that my feed rate is, because I'm not concerned about it trying to dive down into a thick piece of material. The deepest it's going to go is that 40 thousandths of an inch. And that will reduce the amount of machine time, a huge amount, believe me. So it doesn't matter if you're doing, let's see, the molding toolpath, 3D finishing toolpath, or the where did it go? Come on, Mark, get your head out. Texturing toolpath, there it is. Adjusting that plunge rate, that's the key. So hope that helps. Let's see. Okay, Peter Van Vliet says, I use live edge basswood for a lot of signs. Makes for good, clean backdrop to the carves, paints, etc. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people love their basswood. Love their basswood. Okay, let's see here. Let's take that out of there. Okay, AJ Hockey says, not to pressure you or anything, but how is your pirate project coming along? Pirate project, thank you for noticing, by the way. The pirate project is on hold because of something that's happening next week. You will see next week why I'm kind of dragging my feet on the pirate, and it will make complete sense the minute you see. It's a big, huge step, and I can't get into it right now, but next week all will be revealed. So, but it's coming. I figure I'm about maybe 4 to 5 weeks out, and I'll be able to do it. So, watch this space. Stay tuned. So, I know. How's that for a definite, huh? Okay, let's see here. How to make an oval lampshade hardback pattern the easy way. Okay. Interesting name. What is the difference between V-carve and Aspire? I'm going to have to refer you to the comparison page on Vectric's website. And I just wrote myself a note to do so. I'll put a link to that page down in the description box of this video as soon as we're done live. But in a nutshell, the main difference is, we'll go back over here to Aspire again, jump out of the toolpath window. The main difference is over here in the modeling tab, and you look up here at the modeling tools. In V-carve, you have about 5 tools, maybe 6. I don't really remember. In V-carve, you can do some limited editing of 3D components and 3D models. In Aspire, you can create and edit 3D models. V-carve Desktop and V-carve Pro are not 3D modeling software. They're not meant to be. They're for people who don't need that capability. It can import one single third-party 3D model, and you can carve it, and you can do some basic editing like the thickness of the model or the size, or its placement, within the material and its orientation. You can do that kind of editing, but you can't go in and change components or move them around like you can in Aspire. Aspire, you can just create 3D models within the software itself. That is the primary difference, and that is the major difference. So when it comes to over here in the drawing tab, V-carve Pro will do everything Aspire does over here in the drawing tab. It all has to do with modeling. So that's the primary difference. There's a few others, but they're small. Another one is the clip art that you get with the software, and that is here in Aspire. It comes with, I want to say, a little over 1,200 pieces of clip art, where V-carve comes with like 600 to 800 or something like that. But yeah, it's, other than that, the main thing is over here in the modeling tab, and it's just the ability to create 3D models versus basic editing. So, but I will put a link to the comparison page down in the description of this video as soon as we're finished. Okay. So let's see here. And let's see here if I've got any other questions. No, I think I'm caught up. All right. Yeah. I think I'm caught up with the questions for this week. I know Norm said something earlier up here. I'm trying to find you, Norm. Okay, there you go. Trying to carve a clip art rope border raised on a 1/2-inch board. Mine is blank this morning. What are you having an issue with? I mean, is it placement, or is it adjusting thickness and what have you? And that's simply done in the modeling tab with the wrench, and that'll do your model height. Let's see. Michael Hall wants to know, what source do you recommend for buying bits? Any and all. I have bought bits off of eBay. I bought bits at my local big box store. We have tool stores here. Medford Tool and Supply. They specialize in tooling and what have you. I've bought bits off of eBay, off of Amazon. There's a company, Rogue Carbide, that is about 35 miles away from me. I've ordered from them off of eBay. I've ordered from Tools Today, from Whiteside, from CMT, MSC Direct. I mean, I don't have any single source. I look for the tool I need at the time, and I shop for it. And I look at price, availability, and shipping cost. There have been times where if I need a 1/4-inch downcut spiral, I run down to my local Lowe's and buy a Bosch downcut spiral bit from them. And if I need it like right now, because I can't wait on shipping. Excuse me. Other times I have, ordered off of Amazon, like I said, or Tools Today. It just depends on what the bid is. Magnate is another good bit supplier. Whiteside, as I said, CMT. I have no brand loyalty. I also have bought some Kyocera bits off of eBay. They work real well. I just suggest to people that you stay away from bit sets, because you'll discover that you end up paying for a whole bunch of bits that you will never use. So I buy bits as I need them. And Mike Tadlock has reminded me, and thank you, RIP Precision Bits. They have some very good bits with good prices. They do some very good bits at very good prices. 2 flute and 3 flute V bits that are very good. What I'll do is I'll go ahead, and it'll take me a while, so give me the rest of this afternoon. You might check back tomorrow. I'll go through and I'll get some of the bit sources that I have used and put links down in the description of this. Bit links. Just wrote myself a note to make sure I actually do it. RIP Precision Tools. Cody over at Cadence Manufacturing Design, maker of the Jenny bit. He's got some good stuff over there. Basically, about the only thing I would say is, again, I suggest people stay away from bit sets, because you end up spending a lot of money on bits that you just won't use. So let's see here. Is there ever a need for more than 2 flutes when using wood? Depends on the kind of bit. 2 flute, 3 flute, sometimes, more flutes on a V bit is a good thing, because you get more cleaning out of the trench after it's carved it. I guess for lack of a better term. My 60-degree CMT laser point bit has 6 flutes on it. And do I need that? No, but it does come in handy. Now, when you're talking about something like a downcut or upcut spiral end mill, 2 flutes max for me, mainly because your router or spindle is spinning so fast, it doesn't have time for that first flute to get through the cut before the second flute behind it comes along and cuts again. Then the third flute behind that comes along and cuts again. So you're not getting a good chip. You're getting powder and dust. And you'll also find a lot of burning, because if you are running, let's just say you are running at, for example, because it's an easy number, 10,000 RPM with a 2 flute bit, but then you put in a 4 flute bit, you have effectively doubled your RPM, because you have a cutting tool, a cutting edge striking that material twice as often. So you're getting smaller, finer chips. You would need to slow it down even more, maybe beyond what your router or spindle is capable, in order to use that 4 flute bit in wood and get the type of chip that you should be getting. Whereas using single flute or 2 flute bits, when you set at, again, 10,000 RPM, which I think is a bit low, but you have better chance of getting that chip that you're after. You're without heating up the bit or burning the wood. And if you're burning wood, you're also dulling your tool. So personally, I think for 2 flute bits would be about the maximum for like an end mill. And I do use single flute straight bits as well. Any bit without a bottom bearing can be used with the CNC, basically. Now, you have to ramp in your plunge moves if there's not a cutter across the bottom, but you can ramp that in, and you can use basically any bit that, any router bit on a CNC router that does not have a bottom bearing. And that doesn't mean take the bottom bearing off, because you still have that nub where the screw goes in there. So let's see. Let's see. Live Fire 81 says, I'm cutting dual-sided relief cut with text and simulated wood grain on 1 1/4 Xterra. We're using a 45 B-notch bit chased with an 1/8" ball nose. Any tips to do it faster on Aspire 7 series software? Just excuse me. Look at your plunge rate. Just look at your plunge rate. And Aspire 7 doesn't have the most efficient tool pathing. You might want to go ahead and upgrade your software to the most recent. I believe I don't like to give prices, because the minute I give a price, it's going to be wrong. But in the past, to upgrade to the most recent edition of Aspire has been like $400 and worth every penny. There are so many improvements between version 11 and the 7 series. It's worth every penny, believe me. And it'll pay for itself on your first couple of projects. But in the past, it's been $400, and I know the minute I say that, they're going to raise it to $5 or $6 or $7. I don't know, but that's why I don't like to get into pricing. But okay, Mike Tadlock says 400 upgrade. Just did it yesterday. Okay, yeah. Without upgrading, I would say look at your plunge rates, because the same thing apply. So as it does in like 3D carving or texturing toolpath or molding toolpath, your machine's only going to run at the speed of the slowest axis, no matter what you do, and there's nothing you can do about it. So Peter Van Vliet says dovetail bits don't have bearings, but I would guess they probably shouldn't be used on a CNC since they're not made for plunging, right? If you can ramp in your plunge moves, you can use it. And watch this space for dovetail bits, because I later on down the road I am going to get into some vertical work holding and using dovetails. So, but yes, you can use a dovetail bit, and you know, you just have to be able to ramp in those plunge moves. That's all. So, can a majority of these bits be used in soft metals? I'm going to have to claim ignorance. I don't know. I'm a wood guy. I'm not a metal guy. I've been doing woodworking one way or another for a little over 50 years, but my metal experience has been limited to a drill press and nuts and bolts. I don't know metal. There's always been some mystical voodoo in metal for me. I've always been kind of jealous of the metal guys. Let's see. Peter Van Vliet says, do you ever use non-carbide bits? No, I don't. The only exception to that being drill bits, not drill bits, but not on the CNC. I have used high-speed steel drill bits in my drill press, but other than that, if it's going in a router or on the CNC, I use either carbide, solid carbide, or carbide tipped. So, and it's just been my experience that I get a lot more use out of them. So, okay, I'm going to take this one. This will be our last one, and we'll get out of here. Any issue pouring epoxy resin over polycyclic? I think you mean polyacrylic, which is a Minwax water-based, I believe. Polyacrylic is a water-based. I would suggest you get a hold of the epoxy resin company, because not all epoxy resins are the same. I know some of them say, yes, you can pour it right over a polyurethane, oil-based polyurethane, but not a water-based. Some suggest you don't do that at all. So contact the resin manufacturer and let them know, is it oil-based poly or water-based poly? So I can't say yes, because I don't know what you've got, and I probably wouldn't know if I did know what you got. So get a hold of the resin company. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. We're right at an hour. I know we have a few channel members here in the crowd. Thank you for joining us. Remember, tomorrow night at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern time will be the members only live stream. If you'd like some information on becoming a channel member, the link is down in the description. And yeah, it is killing me not to talk about what I got coming up. It really is. But we're all just going to have to sit and twiddle our thumbs and hope for the best, because I can't say it yet, but more will be revealed next week. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody who has hit those super chats, super stickers, super thanks, and hit the donate links down in the description. I want to thank everybody for watching, everybody for sharing, liking, commenting. You guys are doing some killer comments. Mike Tadlock, you rock, my friend. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it. You guys mean more to me than you will ever know. You will ever know. So let's go ahead and wrap this up and say next week's video, I'm going to try for the two-sided 3D import for a two-sided project. I'm still trying to find that perfect model that I can use, because the YouTube video is considered commercial use. Thank you, copyright gods. And if I can't do that, I'll think up something else. But anyway, we'll see you here next Sunday, channel members. I hope to see you tomorrow. Y'all take care. Go do something cool. It's Sunday afternoon. Let's go have some fun. Make some more chips. There's still time. Y'all take care. Have a good one.